Some of you out there might be aware of my fascination with a genre, or I guess you could say storytelling trend in the realm of online horror, the haunted video game story. It's become something of a trend to create a fictional video game that resembles the classics from the turn of the millennium, and then have that game glitch out in horrific ways or be haunted by a monster, or perhaps there's a dark secret in the game hidden beneath the disturbing imagery. I was never really one for general horror, whether it be spooky stories or survival horror. You can only go so far when you're spilling blood and freaky monsters are everywhere. Something that definitely catches my interest, however, is a horror series with a story to tell and a mystery to investigate. It's what got me into Valle Verde, and it's why I now present a video on another story that has actually concluded in the last couple months. That story is Catastrophe Crow, otherwise known as Crow64. This story began a couple years ago, and very recently we got an actual fully playable Catastrophe Crow game, loaded with secrets to find, and my feelings on the whole thing are honestly rather mixed. I mean, the whole package has a great amount of effort and care put into it, but the conclusion of the story doesn't exactly stick the landing as well as I'd have liked. I'm going to spoil every puzzle and solution in this video, so I should first say that if you want to explore what Catastrophe Crow has to offer, you are still able to go on the same journey as everyone else. None of the resources or puzzle solutions have been lost, and you can still access them. Start with the original video by Adam Butcher, the author, and go from there. If you get stuck, the Catastrophe Crow Discord has you covered with a huge document with nearly all the info you need. Special thanks to them for that resource, and huge shoutouts to Adam Butcher for creating this experience. Now, let's begin. The Crow64 story began in October of 2020, where Adam Butcher uploads a video in which he displays his most recent eBay acquisition, a beta cartridge of a game called Catastrophe Crow. Completely unreleased and unknown to the public, Adam goes on to show us magazine scans and online posts concerning the game before jumping straight into gameplay. The whole video is well done and evokes the classic image of a YouTuber doing a video game documentary on an obscure product. We know it's all fake because there's no way the game would go undocumented for this long, but the idea of a video like this is to make it as plausible as possible that the story could have been real, and the video pulls it off very well. The game itself is said to be the brainchild of the fictional company Opus Interactive, and its founder, Manfred, who took inspiration from his own daughter's drawings when designing it, and allegedly had a groundbreaking system known as the Eternal Revival System. If you pause the video to look at the magazine scans more, you can find rather interesting and perhaps unsettling things Manfred says. However, something happened during development. The game kept getting delayed, and rumors started going around that Manfred's home life had collapsed. Eventually, the man vanished completely, with his boat found floating off the coast with only his clothes and what definitely looks like a death certificate, suggesting the worst. But now, however, we can finally check out what this beta cartridge is like. Look at how tall that thing is! But it does work, and as we boot the game, we see that the game definitely has a Banjo-Kazooie type feel to it. No, really, that title screen music is straight out of Banjo-Kazooie. But did you catch that weird pop-up when the game booted? We'll get back to that. After pressing start, we get a message. He's not been home for days. Maybe he'll talk with you. And then we enter the first area, which contains a tall building labeled Work, which just so happens to be Crow spelled backwards. Kinda. I don't think this means anything, I just think it's neat. The work building is essentially the hub area, a la Peach's castle. Upon entering, a crow is spotted running to the right. Adam follows, and we see a monitor that has a portal to the first level, and the monitor gets bigger as Adam approaches, eventually entering. This first level has many colored blocks, a chessboard, and a teddy bear. There's not a lot to see here though, at least until Adam wall jumps to a higher area and we see chess pawns sending strings of letters to some kind of hospital equipment with a crow working the computer. The crow says a line of text that can't be understood, though it will most certainly be decoded later. Also, did you notice the camera was zooming in more and more on the TV as time goes on in this video? I really don't know why it does that, but it's a neat effect. Anyways, after the game crashes and reboots, we're back in the overworld, and now there's a scarecrow under an overhang. Approaching it causes it to vanish, and we see the crow running into the building again. The computer monitor is now gone, but the phone is ringing. There's apparently no way to pick it up, but Adam spots the crow running left this time, towards a dead end. Well, he must have gone somewhere, and Adam does indeed spot the secret passage leading to the crow standing on a boat, with a computer in his hands, and he jumps off along with it, sinking into the water, Adam's character soon following. Cut to a new forest-like level. The first thing of note Adam finds is that the same crow is standing over a grave sobbing. The headstone is labeled Crow and bears a resemblance to the actual cartridge we're playing on. Going in the grave triggers the phone again, and the player character suddenly trips down a staircase as the game glitches out. We then reboot again to a glitched overworld. But what's this? The player character has changed. The player is no longer the bandaged crow, the player is instead the taller crow we've been seeing. This time Adam enters the house behind him. Inside, the player can only move forward until we enter a room filled with objects we saw in that first level earlier. A highly disturbing noise accompanies the horrifying image of a beheaded crow hooked up to hospital equipment. The room fills with water as the Headless Crow is dragged away, and that ends the video. If you're new to this story, you must be thinking, what the heck did we just see? Some of you who are familiar with this type of storyline might have an idea what this is about. The scenes we just saw are essentially recreating the sequence of events that played out during the creation of Catastrophe Crow. He's not been home for days refers to Manfred Lorenz essentially locking himself in his workplace alone for months, doing nothing but work on the game. Just like the entrance to the first level, work got bigger and bigger as he got consumed by it. He had coders working for him, but they were just pawns to him. He never answered any phone calls and would eventually take his computer into the middle of the ocean and drown himself with it. Oh great, another horror story with a drowning. Sorry about that, moving on. So what was it that prompted all this behavior? Nothing less than the loss of a loved one, who may or may not have injured herself falling down the stairs. And when Manfred finally answers that call and returns home, he enters the room of his daughter, the one who inspired the creation of this game. The toys in this room are found in the first level, and her drawings from the magazine articles are on the wall. With that headstone, we can conclude that she's very much dead. This is already tragic, but your head must be swimming with questions, like what the coded messages are, or if this is really what actually happened. This is, of course, not the end. The audience naturally began searching for more info on Catastrophe Crow, and they found something. Several channels had actually uploaded footage of the beta just a few months prior to Adam Butcher's video. I absolutely love that these channels have random footage of unrelated, cancelled games in order to keep up a sort of masquerade. Really nice detail. The Crow64 videos show us different possible scenes and outcomes from the game, so let's take them in upload order. First, the videos from the channel 3D Platformers NZ. This shows the office in the work building, now with a photo on the desk showing a family of 4. For a split second, the photo changes into a picture of 4 crows. This links the crow characters directly to the Lorenz family, the big crow with glasses representing Manfred himself, and the bandaged crow representing his deceased daughter. The player then takes the elevator to the second floor and encounters a computer outputting Morse code, but the transcription is again coded, so we can't do anything with that yet. It also seems the player is now stuck in this hallway and cannot exit. The next video from the same channel shows us the overworld again. The player attempts to leap across an archway multiple times. On the third try, he collides with the big crow and is sent downwards through multiple levels, or shall we say, layers, and eventually reaches a cave. The player collects several items that make seemingly random noises. There is of course a meaning to them, but we can't know it yet. At the end of this cave, the player crow encounters 3 other crows, and they all fade into the background as the video ends. The next video is from Childhood Memories 64, and shows us a secret under one of the flower beds, a tunnel leading to a room with a computer. Touching the keys produces sound effects, with each key producing a different sound. This is in fact related to the previous video's sound sequence. Further, touching the keys in a particular order makes them flash green. Both the green keys and the sound order spell out extra messages, but they're encoded again. Finishing the sequence, the monitor opens to reveal a spinning crow head. The player touches it and the video ends. The next video is from N64 Long Lost Lore. It shows the pause screen, then enters the work building. Now don't miss this. The graph in the main entryway has changed. If you overlay the letters with the graph from the original video, rather the one with a sticky note in the same position, the graph indicates a sequence of letters, which is yet another message we can't read, but don't fret, we'll get an answer to that soon. The player enters the toy level again, and it looks more complete this time, with the chess pieces moving and such. The player climbs a ledge and enters a secret area under the main level. The room looks empty, but pausing here reveals that the pause screen has changed. This is the important part. The pause menu has the same number of letters, and the pattern of letters is consistent with the original pause screen. In other words, this video reveals a cipher that can be used to translate everything up to this point. The cipher is known to the community as Crow language. Here's what we can translate so far. The first line from the boot up text, "Dearest Thea." The line from the first video, "I am in hell." The Morse code message, "One I made myself." The sound code, after mapping the sounds to letters and translating, "This is only for your little brother now." The keys that flash green in order, "Please forgive me, both of you." The graph code, "I ran and now." So this confirms a couple things. Manfred's daughter is named Thea, and the word Crow translates to Thea in the cipher, so the headstone over the grave, which looked like an N64 cartridge, could be interpreted as being Thea's grave. Further, Thea has a little brother, and is the only true recipient of the game now. No wonder Manfred once said, "The player is gone." In this context, he was referring to his daughter, a father crafting a love letter to his family in game form, only for tragedy to strike and take it all away. It's not unlike another horror game involving a cursed video game that I also made a video on, really, but we're not sure if anything supernatural is afoot yet. For now, turn your attention to the message we saw at boot up in the first video. The messages we've been collecting fit into different lines on this screen, the number of squares matching up with the number of letters on that line. This should tell us the intended order of the messages when they're all collected. The next video shows a controller test function. The inputs are spelling out another message here, with A, B, C, L, and R indicating that letter, and the analog inputs drawing other letters. The full message translates to, "I was too afraid." Next, we move to another channel, 90s Retro Gaming Fred. The first video here shows us the player interacting with a chair which produces a message, "I dreamed of you playing this one day." Then the player enters the forest level on the second floor and finds a bridge with coins on it. The bridge is shaped like various letters, and these create another message, "But you never will." This level has a mirror that changes the bandaged crow into a non-bandaged crow that can do infinite mid-air jumps. This new crow interacts with a big crow in the water, who gives us a message in English. He's hinting at a veneer cipher, a form of cipher where a grid of numbers and letters is used along with a key phrase, in this case the name of the new crow, to decode more messages. We'll leave that for later though. In the next video, the player enters the air duct on the side of the work building, finding a cave with water. Here there are invisible pitfalls. Jumping will briefly reveal a safe path to a teddy bear that produces a box of static. Here we must use image editing to reveal another message. "I am sorry I could not be with you in the end." Next are the videos by N64 Excavation Man. In the first one, the player visits the toy level again and finds a hidden path to a boat item. Turning around, the blocks now facing us spell out another message, "Please forgive me, my little crow." The player then jumps, landing in the overworld, but with the house missing. The second video has the player entering the forest level and turns into the non-bandaged crow again. There is no grave now, but there's a floating N64 cartridge. Picking it up makes the crow return to the work building. With the phone ringing, he exits and uses his flight ability to reach the roof of the building. Instead of finding Yoshi and 100 one-ups, however, the crow finds a key that prompts him to enter a name before presenting him with a grid for the cipher we've been looking for. The crow then jumps out of bounds to find another cave. Notice that the skybox appears to be pyramid-shaped. The sound playing here decodes to a bitmap image of Manfred himself. There's nothing further in this video, but we now have all the fragments of the message. Here it is in full. Also, some squares are filled with white. The letters in the corresponding squares can be arranged to spell, "Dearest Nils." There's still quite a lot more to talk about, but let's turn our attention to that key first. The name entry prompt hinted that we need a character's name as our key. You might remember that Manfred's Wikipedia article listed another game he made, Ocean Quest. If we search YouTube for Ocean Quest, we can find the credits music to that game. The song starts with 26 unique 8-bit notes, and then sequences of 8-bit notes play throughout the song. The first 26 notes link each tone to a letter of the alphabet, and then the note sequences spell out names. Thea, Nils, Marta, Manfred, thanks for playing. These must be the names of the Lorenz family. That means the unbandaged crow most likely represents Nils, his son, seeing as Thea's crow is the same height and Marta was mentioned in that note Manfred left on the boat. Speaking of which, there's a sequence of numbers on the note. Remember, we received the Cipher grid when the Crow character picked up the key, so whoever that Crow represents must be the key we need. That Crow represented Nils, so if we take this number and combine it with a grid of letters and using Nils for the key, gives us the message, Nils, I'm alive. You can also use the key Thea to get is not for you, or simply the word Crow to get for other kin. The same video has another key. Manfred's Crow was typing it into a computer. It can translate to, using Nils, please remember me. If you use Thea, you get this is for another, and the word Crow gives message not for you. So this must mean Manfred's alive, having apparently faked his own death, and wants to see Nils once more, presumably to ask for forgiveness. Things take an interesting turn from here. In the description of the Childhood Memories 64 channel, there is a note saying, remember this cheat code, and then a string of numbers. Put that in the cipher with the key Nils and you get join emails in order. But what emails? Well, you might have noticed something was up with the YouTube channels we've been talking about. In case you didn't, here are the channel names. N64 Excavation Man, 90s Retro Gaming Fred, N64 Long Lost Lore, 3D Platformers NZ, put it all together, Manfred Lorenz. So it's him that uploaded all of this. He must have set all of this up for Nils to find. I mean, the Crow representing Nils picks up a cartridge and gets a key in the videos, right? Alright, so the emails of the 4 channels can be combined to reveal the email address of none other than Manfred Lorenz himself, alive and well and awaiting his son to contact him. Now, unfortunately, I cannot tell you the actual email, because, according to what I've heard, someone tried to spoof the email in order to expose personal information. Yeah, pro tip, in a fictional story such as this, you can immediately rule out doxing as a possible solution in any situation. But the point is, the audience was now able to email Manfred, and this is where things get sticky in another way. Users began emailing Manfred, and the most interesting replies from Manfred came from attempts to impersonate Nils, with Manfred expressing a desire to see Nils on the day after his birthday at the usual meeting place. The audience took this as a challenge to find the date and place, but nothing I can find in any video or mail implies this was a goal for us. Probably should have made your intentions a little more clear, Adam. At any rate, Manfred becomes aware that more people besides Nils have been seeing the cartridge and eventually stopped replying to imposters. If he wasn't expecting that, then he probably thought Nils would buy the game off eBay, but Adam bought it instead. Was Nils just disinterested? Would they even meet up? A strange video was uploaded by another channel, Ultra64 Forever, on October the 29th. 60 seconds of a crow sitting in a forest waiting for something. On November 4th, a similar video appeared, this time showing the forest slowly fading to black. This one has a hidden audio code translating to, I remain. Another video on November 23rd communicated an image of a key through binary, maybe hinting a key was in the video somewhere. So, is that it? Well, not quite. One more channel appeared, Arri Aderman. Ulrich also has a Twitter, which is weird because crows don't tweet. Never mind. On his Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called nowadays, Arri Aderman talks about his career at a company called Opus. Yes, Ulrich worked for Manfred, and graced us with concept art and eventually an entire Unity dump containing the source code to Catastrophe Crow. However, it was locked behind a password. This is the most insane code to crack yet. The final page of Ulrich's concept art has a hidden message deep within the image, requiring it to be flipped horizontally and enhanced. Testing access now requires 2 keywords plus a build number plus node, e.g., and then there's an example code. So that last string is the pattern the password follows, and we need 2 keywords, a build number, and a node. Let's cover the build number first. Ulrich's concept art also has a page with the work building, hinting that the window lights form a binary code. Of course! In Adam Butcher's first video on his second visit to the work building, some of the windows are dark. Build number. It's a number hidden in the building. So, a light window denotes a 0 and a dark window denotes a 1. There's our build number. Next up is the node. Another concept art image shows us a series of ERS nodes. These patterns may look familiar. They're related to the floor pattern revealed by jumping in the room with the false floors and the teddy bear. One of the nodes in the concept art is an exact match for the pattern seen in the game, and it's marked UN, so that must be the node part of the password. Finally, the keywords. Ulrich's concept art also contains a clue to a compression algorithm dealing with 1-bit 5x7 images. The most recent video with the teddy bear contains strange audio that decrypts to the image of a key. This audio compression algorithm and the bear are the keys here. The audio that played the first time the bear was seen decrypts to the image of an ankh. That's the first key. I'm uncertain exactly how the audience found the second key, but my best guess is, in the video where the crow acquires the Cipher key, he looks up at the skybox and sees it shaped like a pyramid. A kind of tomb. 4 letters. There it is. Put it all together and the password is Ankh334007-424 untomb, which can also be interpreted as untomb. Interesting? Anyways, the Unity dump didn't have a lot that was totally new, but after it was unlocked, Ultra64 Forever uploaded another cryptic image in which the Crow character rises higher and higher up, passing through many layers of pyramids along the way. This took place on December 5th, 2020. It appears that unlocking the Unity dump triggered the video. If this is implying what I think it is, then we can make a couple guesses at what just happened. But maybe we should wait for more of the story to come out, and, about that. That's kind of where the story ended for the moment. Many were confused as months went by with nothing new happening. So was the story over from there? Was Manfred really trapped in the game or something? Did unlocking the Unity dump free him? Or did Nils join him? Nothing. Adam Butcher barely talked about it at the time. Rather unsatisfying to end like that, especially with wild speculation as to the meaning of several unexplained concepts. Like the eternal revival system, the Ankh symbolism, the weird stuff Manfred says in the magazine scans, or even what the heck happened to Adam Butcher in-universe after that video of his abruptly ended. Eventually the audience basically gave up. I guess it's more important to note that some stories like this prefer not to say anything definitive and let the player form their own conclusion, but I was never a fan of wild speculation and theories. All stories have to end, I suppose, but there just wasn't clear closure, and there wouldn't be for a few years, but this video has gotten long enough. Having said all that needs to be said, however, the rest of the story up until the non-ending has been fantastic. The story's main hook is intriguing, searching for all the information you need, and putting the puzzles together works out really well, and especially cracking that final piece of the message from Manfred is satisfying. What's also unique is that the horror of the story comes exclusively from the tragedy and how it affected the characters. No spooky ghosts, no paranormal activity, at least as far as we knew. There were still questions that were never really answered, and still really aren't, but all of this made Catastrophe Crow an excellent experience. Next time we fast forward to the modern revival of the story and the fun conclusion. It's worth some discussion. Big thanks to the Catastrophe Crow Discord for compiling all this information and more in their document. And big thanks to Adam Butcher for creating this incredible story. I'm Ephraim225, and I'll see you for part 2. Later, everyone.